Well, hello there and good morning, Year 4. Welcome to your guided reading and English slides for Wednesday, the 27th of January. We've made it to the middle of the week. Okay, well done for everybody doing their work so far and sending it in. It's exactly the same format today. We'll start off with our guided reading text and questions because we know that we're trying to have a look this week to see how you're getting on with your reading. Okay, to help us with preparing lessons in the coming weeks. So do make sure you do your guided reading first and you have a go at your questions and then send them in. Okay, so we can see. I'm also going to look into for Thursday and Friday, seeing if I can create a quiz, a guided reading quiz for you to have a go at, rather than having to photograph your work, to see if that helps you to complete it a bit more easily. But for today, let's have a look at our guided reading text. Okay, so this one today is called the Ultimate Jungle Survival Guide. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? And as usual, there are 4 questions on the right-hand side for you to have a go at. Okay, we're going to read through this together as we always would do, and then talk about the questions before you start. I'll try and give you a few clues and hints to help you along the way, but it's really important that you read this again to yourself and answer the questions independently. Without anybody helping you, so we can really understand what you know and where we might need to focus our reading sessions in the coming weeks. So let's read together, shall we? The Ultimate Jungle Survival Guide. To survive in the jungle, one of the world's harshest and most inhospitable places, your 2 priorities are clear: water and shelter. Without these, you won't make it a single night. Deep within the jungle, sources of fresh water are hard to come by. Keep an eye out for any fallen leaves which have caught pools of rainwater and drink them straight away. You need to drink around 10 litres of water a day to stay alive in this raging heat. Before darkness falls, build a shelter high up off the ground to avoid tigers and other predators overnight. Banana leaves make an excellent shelter from the rain, and vines will hold together your hammock whilst you sleep. Fantastic. So if any of you are planning on going to the jungle soon, then there is your survival guide right there for you. Let's take a look at our 4 questions then, shall we? Okay, so question number 1 then. What are the 2 priorities of jungle survival? Now, I'm sure you can retrieve those, grab those very quickly from the text. We're obviously looking for 2 things here, as we've got 2 lines. What are the 2 priorities of jungle survival? So skim and scan, look for that word priorities and spot those 2. Write them down nice and neatly with your join handwriting, of course. But question 2 then. Find and copy a phrase which the author uses to show that the jungle can be deadly. Okay, so think about a phrase. This isn't just one word, so it's a group of words, not a whole sentence. It's in between one word and a sentence. It's a few words, a phrase, okay, that means that the jungle can be deadly. So again, I would be rereading through carefully. Okay, and when I spot a word that I know is linked to the idea of danger, then I've found my phrase, and I would write that down for that question there. Okay, question number 3 then. Why do you think the guide advises to build a shelter, and this is a quote, quotation marks, before darkness falls? So have a think about that one. Why is it best to build a shelter, or if you've ever been camping, to put up your tent before darkness falls? Why is it better to do it in the light, the daylight, rather than when it's dark? I can tell you that I once arrived a bit late to a campsite and it was dark, and it was very challenging trying to put a tent up with a head torch on. So have a little think about that. Why do you think the guide here that's written this text has said, get your shelter up before darkness falls? Why is that a good idea? And finally then, sum up the key points of this text in 15 words or less. So you're going to have to take this passage and squash it down into a few thoughts and ideas. about what it is about. And can I suggest that this one that would be really useful is that actually you try and bullet point here. And I've noticed that we have 3 paragraphs. So it might be that I perhaps do 1 or 2 bullet points for this paragraph, 1 or 2 here, 1 or 2 here, but remembering no more than 15 words. So it could be bullet points. Paragraph 1 is about this, paragraph 2 is about this, and paragraph 3 is about this. Or you might like to think about writing a sentence that is up to 15 words long to just capture the key points in this, okay, of what this is all about. No waffle, no detail, just straight to the point, okay, to summarize. That's your time now. Over to you to have a go at these questions and to do them as well as you possibly can on your own. Okay, reread, pause the slide now and go through those questions. Give it your best and then make sure you do send them in, and we'll talk about it on the Zoom a little bit later. Okay, off you go. Right then, welcome back. Well done for spending the time rereading and having a go at those questions. Let's dive into our English lesson for today. Okay, so our learning objective for today's lesson is all about ideas and vocabulary. It's one of my favourite kind of English lessons where we're just really thinking very carefully about ideas and vocabulary, the words that we are going to be using. So 3 steps as usual. Step number 1, which we're just about to do, we're going to listen to part of a story and orally retell the events, so speak the events. For step number 2, we will be selecting suitable vocabulary. And for step number 3, we are going to build a bank of words and phrases for writing using this vocabulary that we've identified in step 2. So you'll see we'll be having our big board of joy over here with our symbols to help us think of different writing ideas. And by the end of today's session, you should have a page like this that has words and phrases jotted down so that you're ready to write up your ideas tomorrow. Okay, let's dive in, shall we? So I'm going to share the story of Walk with a Wolf with you once more in a moment, focusing particularly on the part where the wolves go hunting, okay? And I've included here these pictures from the book so that as I'm reading, you can be listening and following the story through these pictures. And at the end of this, I'm going to ask you to be ready to retell the events shown in the picture in the right order. Okay, so you're going to be doing a summary. This happens, this happens, this happens, and then that happens. Okay, so I'm going to go back to here where we're all together, and I am now going to read out the section of the book where the wolves go hunting, and I'll hold up the pages for you to see. Okay, let's make sure we can all see clearly. The wolf pack is ready. They set off together like 8 ghost dogs, silent and stealthy as the coming of frost. 3 ravens are flying high overhead. Most packs have up to 8 wolves in them, although packs of as many as 50 have sometimes been seen. Hunt with a wolf on the trail of a bull moose, following its tracks and its scent on the ground. Wolves have to hunt as a pack if they are to kill large animals, such as moose and deer. There's a crash in the bushes. The moose is close. The wolves crouch on their bellies, their hearts beating fast. There's danger in hunting. A kick from a moose can break a wolf's ribs. Charge with a wolf. The pack breaks through the bushes, swift as grey lightning with one bolt of black. The moose turns and sees them, but he's old and he's limping. There are scars on his legs. The wolves leap at him, biting. Hear the moose bellow. Hear the wolves panting as they drag him down. Drops of his blood fall like berries to the ground. Rest with a wolf. No longer hungry, she watches the cubs come to join in the feast. If there is plenty of food around, pack members will all feed at once. But if meat is scarce, the strongest wolves will eat first, and the youngest, the cubs, last. Sleep with a wolf while a blizzard is blowing. The sky is full of a million grey ice moths as the wind drives the flakes down. Backs to the gale, the wolves curl among boulders, heads tucked between hind legs, and noses covered by the fur of their tails. Dream with a wolf. As the pole star is shining, there's thick snow on the ground and a shivering wind, but the wolf dreams she is walking with new cubs in warm sunlight as the wild geese return with the spring to the lake. There we go, fantastic. Such a fabulous book, isn't it? Okay, so let's go back to the slides and we need to try and remember those key events because that is the section of the book that we are going to be writing tomorrow. Okay, and we are back. So what I would like you to do, without adding too many details in, is to use these pictures to prompt you and to remind you of the key events of that part of the story where the wolves went hunting. Okay, so pause the slides. It's a bit like summarizing, isn't it? And I'd like you to say what's happening in each of these pictures and tell the story of the wolf hunt. Off you go. Okay, so well done if you have spoken that out loud, you've retold that part of the story. Brilliant if you've managed to do that with an adult or somebody else at home. If not, let's run through and recap to make sure that we know exactly the events that are happening. So, first of all, in this first image here, okay, we can see the wolves set off in their pack searching for prey. So at the beginning of our writing tomorrow, we're going to be describing the wolves walking almost as if they're kind of lined up, almost as if they're sort of marching through the snow together. In the second part here, the pack picks up the scent of a bull moose and follows its tracks. So we'll be describing, look how the wolves are crouched down here, describing that scene there just before they're about to attack. And then this scene here, the wolves charge and leap at the moose and then drag it to the ground. The pack and cubs feast on the meat. So that's the part where the wolves work as a team to overpower the moose, to kill it, and then the whole pack is able to eat. And finally, in this section of the story, the wolves and cubs curl up against the wind and snow of a blizzard and sleep. Okay, so they have a nice full tummy, but it's really cold, so they wrap up tightly in their tails and they huddle together and have a sleep. Okay, so that is the basic plot of the wolves going hunting. And as I say, that's what we're going to be writing up tomorrow. But today is all about the ideas for writing. Okay, so I'm going to go to this slide here. Okay, and we are going to start thinking of some vocabulary that we will be able to use when we are describing this part of the book, when we're describing the build up to the hunt itself, and then afterwards when they're sleeping in the snow. We're going to magpie some vocabulary from this book, and we're also going to have a look over here to see if there's any vocabulary on this slide that we would like to magpie and to use. Okay, I will go large onto this slide so that you can see. Oh, the light's gone off in the classroom. How exciting and dramatic. Or maybe it's just getting us ready for writing when it's going to be obviously in perhaps a dark forest you might be describing. But we're back on, the lights are back on. Hopefully the lights are on in here so we can think of some really good ideas. Okay, so we're going to take a look here on this slide. Okay, and when I finish modelling this step, I'd like you to pause and then to jot down all of the words here that you think would be useful for describing the wolf hunt. Okay, so we can see here that we have a selection of adjectives here. We've got a selection of verbs. There's some more verbs over here as well. We've got some adverbs to describe how those verbs are being done. Okay, so maybe howls ferociously. And we also have some winter words, because of course, if we look at the setting, it must be very cold here in the snow. So there's some winter words in here as well. Okay, so I'm going to just go back here and have a look at these adjectives. Now, not all of these will be appropriate. So your job in this second step is to pick out the words that you think would fit really well. So I'm looking through my adjectives. I'm discussing horrendous and beautiful. Shining. I could have the shining snow, perhaps, if that would fit well there. Smelly, it doesn't speak really high quality vocabulary. So I'm not going to go for that. Striking. That's a really nice. Striking. And actually that's a really nice idea for the fur of this black wolf, who's sort of the leader, the alpha male of the pack. So I'm going to go and show you this now. These are our ideas, our boxes for our ideas. So what I would suggest to you now, as we're selecting some vocabulary, is I would be taking a page or a piece of paper in your book. If it's inside a book, then draw a ruler line down across the page into 4 sections. If you're working on a piece of paper, can I suggest, a little bit like what we were doing with our fraction rules last week, that you fold your page in half, first of all, fold it in half again, and then what you quite easily do is, when you fold it out, is you create a sheet of paper that has 4 sections on it. Okay, so we are going to be focusing on these elements of writing. We're going to be focusing on what we can see. Okay, what actions happen. So this is going to involve some of those incredible verbs. What can be heard, the noises and the sounds. And this symbol is a new one for us. This is ideas for similes. Okay, so comparing, making comparisons. Okay, so we're going to be jotting a few ideas down here ready for tomorrow. Okay, ready for tomorrow's writing. So I'm going to start filling this in, and then step 3 will then be building on some other ideas. So I'm just going to go back to the slides for now so I can see the vocabulary. And then we can start building up our thoughts. Okay, so I think I like this idea of a striking black fur. So this is what I can see. So I'm just going to jot, first of all, the idea of strike. If something is striking, it almost smacks you in the face. It's so bold, it's so striking that you notice it straight away. So striking black fur. Okay. And I might have here my adjective shining white snow. So I'm going to pop that down here as well. Again, things that I would be noticing. Okay. I'm looking over here in the winter section. So powder, footprints. Okay, could have powdery. You can have to describe the snow. So I might put down here other ideas, powdery. I might put the powdery landscape. That's a bit of a better word, and then I'm not repeating snow. The powdery landscape. Okay, fantastic. Now we can build some more ideas in a moment, but let's have a think about these actions. Okay, we need to keep in mind these pictures at the top, what is actually happening here. Okay, and there were some fabulous verbs in the actual book itself. So I'm going back here. So they set off together like 8 ghost dogs, like ghost dogs. Now that's a good idea for my similes, and I'm going to magpie that from the book. So I'm going to put like ghost dogs. I almost might be comparing them to, I said about soldiers earlier, didn't I? Like they're kind of trudging through the snow in formation, aren't they? They're sort of following, they look like they're in formation. So like soldiers in formation. We know later on in the hunt, don't we, that there's that beautiful simile of the blood dropping to the ground like berries. So let's magpie that and have that one. So drops of blood like berries. Okay, so we might have that one there. We could also then think of a comparison. It could be rubies, maybe blood like rubies, or drips of blood like rubies, because rubies are red precious gems, aren't they? So it might look like that in the snow. So let's add that one in. So we've got drops. Oh, look at this. I've just had a thought. Dripping blood like rubies tumbling. Like rubies tumbling to the ground. Okay, fantastic. So go back here again. Let's look at our verbs now, shall we? Let's look at some actions of what's actually happening, what's being done. So we've got here stamped, screamed, cried, rampaged, whimpered, whispered, tiptoed. They're almost sort of silently and stealthily, aren't they? Trying to creep towards, aren't they? I'm going to go back to that page in here where it describes that following its tracks and its scent on the ground. Okay, and there's a crash in the bushes. It's a crash in the bushes. The wolves crouch on their bellies. So let's have that crouch. So a good verb is crouch. And let's have a look, crouch. I'm going to put crouch down. And I'm going to magpie those words, silent and stealthy. And I think to keep things really simple, and what I'd like you to do is just take some individual verbs and just write those verbs down. You don't have to always write them out like a phrase here. You can just pick out individual words. So let's do that nice and quickly. So look down here, leapt. They definitely leap up at the beast, don't they? So let's have leapt. Okay. And then I'm just going back to that book just to remind myself. And we had, yes, hearts beating, didn't we? And charge. Here we go. Leapt and charged. Hearts. Instead of beating, I'm going to say pounding, because when your heart's really, really pumping fast, we say pounding. Hearts pounding. Okay, so we've got some good ideas for that, and we can always come back, okay, and build up. Oh, look, swift as grey lightning. I'm going to magpie this over here. I'm going to squeeze it in because there's barely any space. As swift as, now you could keep lightning, or you could think of something else that's really fast. As swift as lightning, but lightning works really well because lightning is quite a bright colour, and the wolf's fur is very light for most of them anyway. It's sort of grey white, so it matches with the colour of lightning. So that works well. As swift as lightning. Okay, fantastic. So we've got some things that we're noticing, that we're seeing. We've got some powerful verbs of what's being done. We've got some cracking similes there. We haven't got any sounds, have we? There was a crash, wasn't there? A crash in the bushes. So we had a crash. And also, if we think about this part here, and there was that fantastic verb there, bellow, a bellow. The moose bellowed in pain. So we can have bellowed up here, but also it's a noise, isn't it? So we'll put it in this one. So we could call it bellow in pain. There we go. Okay, we might be able to hear, as we're thinking, maybe the panting. Yep, so we might have the panting. So the loud panting. Because I would imagine that it would take a lot of effort, a lot of energy to bring down a massive moose like that. Okay, so they probably would be panting with all the effort. Okay, with that one there. Okay, so we've got some good ideas here. We've obviously got biting. Okay. And it doesn't really matter whether you put it in present tense or past tense. I think tomorrow I'll be writing in past tense to recount what has happened already. So past tense verbs are best. So leapt, charged, hearts pounding or hearts pounded. Okay, so I might want that to be pounded. And they crouched down. Okay, so have a think now and have a look at building up your board with these pieces of vocabulary. I'll just quickly show you mine now, but it's a bit more full. This is what you're working towards. You can't quite see all down the bottom, so let me just show you quickly. So you've got 4 sections: things you see, things that the wolves do or the moose does, things that can be heard, and things that you could describe using a simile for that part of the story there. Okay, so that's what we should be building up for today. Have a pause now, go back and have a little look at those words and pick out the ones that you think work best. Off you go. There they are for you. Brilliant. Okay. We're sort of on our way, aren't we, to completing step 3, because this is what step 3 looks like. Okay, we've got our 4 sections. What I would like you to do is to now we've sort of magpied some ideas from the book itself, and now we've magpied some ideas from the vocabulary. It's actually, can we now really build a bank of words and phrases for our writing that we're thinking of? Okay, so I really want you to get thinking, get creative, and be adding in your own ideas. Great opportunity for you to talk to other people around you. Okay, to get some thoughts and see if they've got any new vocabulary that you could use. Okay, if you want to go back and listen to me rereading the story so that you can have a look at some of those pictures and listen to the language again, that would be a really good idea. But in the meantime, let's come back together and finish off here, shall we? So, bit empty here, things that I haven't noticed. I'm just going to show you in a different pen my own ideas rather than my magpie thoughts here. So you might like to do that with your work. When you have magpied words, you could put them in one colour, and then when they're your own words, you could show your teacher that by using a different colour. So we're thinking about what we can see here. So I'm just going to go back to the book to have a little look in here. Look, we haven't really thought about this part here at the end yet, have we? Where they were laying in the snow, curled up. So I'm going to put curled up or tucked up tightly, aren't they? What could we hear? The howling blizzard. Let's put that down there. The howling blizzard. Okay. And what could we see if it's snow and powdery snow on the landscape? Actually, at the end, we can see that it is snowing, isn't it? So we can see flakes. Maybe I could use this idea of fragile flakes. So let's have a look. So fragile. Could be fragile. It could be delicate, maybe. Fragile flakes. Drifting to the ground. That's nice. Or drifting through the icy air. Okay, so we've got those ideas there. Okay, so really do spend some time now having a look at those pictures, having a really good think. We're just focusing on the ideas for writing now, so that tomorrow we can be pulling these ideas and dropping it into our sentences. And I'll be modelling step by step tomorrow how to build up a really super descriptive paragraph. Okay, off you go now. Have a go now, adding in your own ideas. The more ideas, the better, but do make sure they're high quality. All right, don't just choose any old words. Really try to make this, squeeze your brains of all of its best ideas so that you've got high quality language ready for tomorrow. Off you go. Right then, okay, hopefully you've paused and you have this. Of course, you could have magpied as much as you like, but I hope you've really got some good ideas of your own in there as well. Last thing to say is have a reflection now. Think about, how did you do today? Which of these steps have you achieved? And what would you like to know or do better? And do make sure you share that feedback on the emails or in the Zoom session so that we can help you. Okay, and of course, we look forward to receiving your work on the emails and seeing you sharing it on Zoom. It's been lovely to hear sentences being read out loud. So it'd be really super on today's Zoom even, for us to share some of the vocabulary. And actually, if we bring our work to the Zoom, we can write down our ideas and we can magpie off each other, couldn't we? We perhaps share some of our thoughts and ideas. We could write it down and use the chat function. Okay, I hope you've really enjoyed that. Tomorrow we'll move on to writing our paragraph, which I'll work through with you step by step. I'm very excited about using this brilliant language, and I hope you are too. In the meantime, okay, make sure you're keeping up with everything to do with your home learning now. I look forward to seeing you in the Zoom later, okay, and then finishing off our piece of writing tomorrow. See you later.